I think it's okay, because I think the main point is that we should have some sanctions now, but they should be more suggestive of what could happen and where we could increase and escalate if somehow President Putin really moved into eastern Ukraine with major force. That would be, for me, a fundamentally new game, a fundamentally new threshold from anything we've seen so far. And so what I want is the sanctions that we apply right now to be strong enough to tell him what could happen if he keeps this up, rather than punishing him for a fact that is now going to be very hard to undo. And again, he should be punished to some extent. I think some sanctions are appropriate. But the idea of broad-based sanctions that would target the entire Russian economy, I think those need to be held in abeyance, held in reserve, in case we don't see the kind of outcome that we'd like in Ukraine, in case we see Putin move in with large armored formations, at which point we need to be much more robust and much stronger in our response. And he needs to know that. So he needs to see us putting together sanctions ideas now that we can step up and fully implement if he goes over this threshold and moves into eastern Ukraine in force. I think the main impression would be to say something that Congressman Thornberry said today, which is that this whole thing is startling and surprising, and therefore any impressions we thought we had and could believe were correct, we need to be careful about assuming to be correct in the future. In other words, I don't know. I don't necessarily draw any clear conclusions in my mind of where this guy would stop. And I think Mr. Putin has become a danger. I don't expect that we will have a major war over this. I don't expect that he will threaten the Baltic states over this. But I think we might need to shore up our deterrence of the Baltic states in a more lasting way, for example. And I think the world is different, and in a way that's still not fully predictable or digestible. Well, if Mr. Putin were to become a danger to the Baltic states, then yes, he would be a danger to the U.S., because we cannot walk away from our treaty alliances, and we won't. And therefore, we would do what we needed to do to shore up the security of the Baltic states. Well, I don't want to get into threats, even though I'm not in government, so it doesn't really matter if I threaten. But the point is, we are firmly committed to the security of all of our NATO allies.